Bret, was that if she was to be considered, she needed to be resigned from anything with my campaign because she was still treasurer doing recording, and that that had to be filed, and she would resign because that is what we all felt was only appropriate, because that is the way to do it right. And so that was done. So if there's any questions about that, she has resigned. The form has been filed, and she is no longer a treasurer for that. So that has been taken care of, and that was something that we weren't forced into, that we wanted to do because it was the right way to do it. And to speak for Julie, I think the resume speaks for itself. What I want to speak to is Julie's character, because I've known Julie for quite a while now, and the resume is impressive, but what I want to say about Julie is that she's not doing, she didn't say she was willing to be considered for this because she wants political power. Julie has a servant's heart. Julie is willing to serve. She's been that way at the church. She's been that way with everything that I have been a part of with her. She's not like a lot of people in politics. She's doing it because she believes in the principles, and she has a heart to serve. And we could use a whole lot more of people that aren't seeking any sort of angle, but just have a heart to serve. And that comes with a very long list of qualifications and experience that would serve us very well as a committee, to have someone who's fair, has integrity, and knows how to do the job. You're not going to find better. I encourage you to get past anything you have with me, with anything that's gone on with the board so far, and elect a phenomenal treasurer.
Great, Steve. Rob, are you against?
Yes, I'm speaking against. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Conflict of interest. I heard a lot about that issue coming up to the CD7 convention. As a SD director, I went to all the BPOU conventions. At quite a few of them, there was someone who was talking about this slate that was going to come up, mentioning two very hardworking Republican activists, and was complaining that they had a terrible conflict of interest. These people complaining have a history of working for outside interests against Republicans. And then a little bit later, out comes an anonymous text with a link to an uncredited website. There's a video of two failed legislators on a podcast. Now, one of these is known in legislative circles for lining his own pockets by voting with the Democrats. The other is best known for demanding funding for a golf course that no one wanted, which is now a DNR showcase for native grasses. Quite the conversation. They weren't talking about just a conflict of interest, but any appearance of a conflict of interest. And the aim of this website was to dox these two very honorable Republican activists. Now, at some point, you need to start living by the same rules you demand of everyone else. I stand against this nomination.
Heidi, are you speaking for or against? Heidi?
I am actually, again, point of information. I have 6 years treasurer experience in my BPOU. I have over 6 months of experience with the Federal Elections Commission. In reading over this candidate's resume, I would like to point out that this candidate has experience. I guess maybe I'm 4 now that I'm talking. I hear myself. I'm sorry. This candidate's experience with the FEC, that is huge. But also one thing that I did notice about this candidate is that I believe, if I'm correct, she has some study of the law, if not an attorney. That is huge. when it comes to federal election campaign statutes and understanding all of these statutes, because that's where I found myself in a lot of mud last summer. So I guess I would just like to point out the experience. So thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Fred, are you speaking for or against?
I'm speaking against. It's a very impressive resume. The thing that struck me, that kind of disappointed me, was the fact that it was silent about the question of the conflict or potential conflict of interest with another member of the executive board. And we all know the background. It just seems that would be inviting trouble. And because of the conflict, what I feel is a conflict of interest, or the potential conflict of interest that may be interpreted by others, I would vote against.
Anybody else for? Nathan?
Yeah, sure. I'll go for. Yeah, I know Julie a little bit. She goes to Church for the Harvest in Alexandria, so I've seen her there a few times. We do some homeschool group there, and my brother and a lot of friends go to that church. So I've talked to her, and she's just got a very humble demeanor about her. Something that, again, I think is admirable. Also, when I asked about where she was at on this, I was told that she was in prayerful consideration about it, whether or not she was going to do it. And I think that speaks volumes as well. A lot of times, I know I'm even guilty of that, of saying yes to things too quickly without taking into consideration our higher authority. And so I think that's important to consider when we're talking about these alleged conflicts of interest or perceived conflicts of interest, as if somebody's going to fall prey to, I don't know what the insinuation is there, that they're going to be, I don't know, laundering money to a campaign that's no longer running, or whatever the perceived conflict is. I think it's important to remember, again, character qualities. And if the character is strong and shows that it is based and found, and the foundation is the Lord, and also that there's principle there, that they will be much less likely to be any kind of shenanigans that we see a lot in politics. And I don't foresee that happening at all with Julie. So I would encourage you to vote yes for Julie.
All right, thanks. Jim, are you speaking against?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this will be the last one.
I guess I'm just going to comment, very impressive resume. Just a quick question. When did she resign from the committee, from previous responsibility?
Letter dated 8 June.
Okay, so 4 days ago. Okay. I guess my thing would be is, I've consulted, with some of my folks about this when this came out for my area. And I guess the concern we have is Steve Boyd. I guess you're kind of interesting here. I mean, if anyone's running for Congress, you really should be hitting the ground right now. And the fact that you can't answer the question if you are or not, it's hanging out there. And we don't know if it's going to be before caucus or whatever. But anyway, I'm getting to my point. The thing is, it does affect you, because if in the future you decide I'm going, is she going to stay with the committee and the finance chair, or is she going to go with you? And I'm not sure, again, looking at the good of our board and our district, are we better if she stays and is conflicted still, or if she goes with you, then we got another opening. So again, your inability to confidently give a statement if you're going to run or not is contaminating her as well. So those are my concerns, and many others. That wasn't my concern. I got it from my constituents in McLeod. Thank you.
Okay, that's 3 for each side. Would anybody care to hear from her? Anybody?
Mr. Chair, I know that I already spoke, but I have a question for my fellows on this board. Could you please describe, I'd like to ask these people, what is conflict of interest? Because in my opinion, I do not know Julie. I saw a resume come out in an email like the rest of us. I didn't even know she was Mr. Boyd's treasurer. I read the resume. Are we here to elect or appoint a treasurer who has qualification, or are we here to make assumptions? Are we here to presume? Are we here to predict the future? I'd like to know where the conflict of interest lies with, is it Cunnington? I'm sorry, Julie? Julie. I'd like to know where the conflict of interest lies with a candidate who is no longer with a campaign, who is simply applying for a job. Now, if I'm looking at this as a job application, that person is no longer affiliated. They have disconnected. So I'd like to know what the conflict of interest is and where that lies. Please, and I'm just asking for a great description. I'm one of these that I need to understand. So thank you.
Thought I did describe it a little bit because again, with the unsettled issue with Steve, she then becomes an accessory, or not accessory, but I mean affiliated by the same thing. So I mean, if he decides to run, which is his right, and again, we got an issue then to deal with. Be nice if we didn't have to do that.
I'm just reading Jolanne's conflict of interest. Couldn't we all have conflict of interest, people? Come on.
I just
We
did a
all
quick
could have-
Google
All
search.
right,
Heidi.
we're getting off, unless somebody has some pertinent facts to present here, I think we need to move to a vote. Steve, do you have a pertinent fact here, or?
Oh, I was just gonna ask for clarification from Rob. I didn't sure if that was just kind of an analogy to explain his conflict of interest, or if he was insinuating that someone on this board was behind the text. I guess I was confused by it. So I'm not arguing with you, Rob. I'm trying to get a little clarification what you meant by that.
Rob, anything to add?
I have nothing to add. That's not relevant to the conversation.
Okay. All right. So I guess we'll do a roll call vote. All right. Nathan,
Yes.
Jolanne,
No,
Heidi,
I
Steve,
Yes.
Katie,
yeah,
Matt,
Yes.
Lisa, Murphy,
No.
Lisa Tilney,
yes,
Rob,
No.
Fred,
No.
Amanda,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
Holly,
no,
Mary Gail,
No.
Greg or Jeff,
Right, go ahead and vote.
Muted.
who's that?
Greg's muted.
No. Sorry about that.
Jim,
No, I spoke against.
Brandon, Brandon,
he's muted.
Brandon,
Can you hear me?
yes.
Okay, sorry, I don't know I was muted. No.
Did you get Tiffany's vote?
Oh, I'm sorry. Tiffany,
No.
okay, you got the total, Jillian? Jillian, do you have the total?
They have 8 yeses, 10 noes. Is that what you have?
1, 2, 3. Yeah. Okay, so motion fails. Next thing on the agenda is adjournment.
Well, Brett, do you have a plan?
Yeah, my plan was to have somebody with a Juris Doctorate and an MBA with who works for Intuit in the tax season, who's overqualified for the job and has offered to help us. And we can't find anybody better than her. There is no conflict. She does not work for Steve. She will not work for Steve in the future. I'm sure Steve he's already said that he has another treasurer. So, so we'll just, we can't pay bills and, we can't take donations.
So that's your plan, is just to go without one until forever?
Well,
I mean,
this is a fully qualified person. And so the people that voted against, Julie, it's on you.
No, actually, there are other qualified people available. You just refuse to take them up.
Well, look, I talked with Carl, I told you this. So he has no direct accounting experience. He's never filed a FEC or campaign finance report, which is criteria according to the last meeting. So as an HR manager who's done it for decades, I've hired hundreds of people. And if I had somebody in a critical position like treasurer, and I put in somebody who had no direct accounting experience or had filed the correct reports, I would be fired. They would question me for doing that.
Okay, so he hasn't filed directly, but at least he hasn't filed and done them wrong.
Well, neither has Julie.
So I'm going to offer another choice. Heidi and I had a conversation because we do need to have a treasurer. Our hands are tied now. I don't know if you realize that.
I do.
Okay.
I've talked to campaign finance and spoken with FEC, so I know what the consequences are here.
So I have talked to Heidi. Heidi, do you want to take it from here? But would you consider nominating Heidi if she would be willing?
I would like to have that discussion after this meeting, but I am going to be fully transparent. This candidate is by far more qualified than I would be. I've done it. I enjoy money. I enjoy treasury work. I emptied my plate. But this candidate would be far more qualified than I would ever be.
Well, it's just unfortunate there is that conflict there, and it's not sitting well with people. And the board voted, and here is what we have. We have to resolve this. And so I really think Heidi could get the votes to pass. I can't say for sure, but if she's willing, that's something that we need to discuss. But there has to be a plan, because this is now the 4th time that I've asked you, Brett, for a plan moving forward. And each time I've asked you, I've gotten nothing. And there is another subject that we need to discuss after this pertaining to the treasurer vacancy.
Well, okay, I'd like to discuss it afterward. If Bret chooses to have more people in, that's fine. But this is his appointment. I respect the chair's duties. I respect, Tiffany approaching me. I mean, I'm honored. However, I have something for the board to contemplate. We need to move forward. We all know that. We all want to get there. We had a chance last week, but we didn't. We have a chance tonight. But my question for some of you is a conflict of interest, the ones that say it's conflict of interest, is that more important to you? I know we all stand on principle. I stand on principles. That's why I voted many times the way I do. But is your conflict of interest principle more important? Are you putting that before the CD7? Because right now the CD7 can't accept any money. We can't do any treasury work, and we don't know how long that's going to take. Sometimes we have to put things aside. I've had to put stuff aside. We've all sacrificed, but I'm just wondering where this is all going. And I'm not here to scold or not here to, but quite frankly, I mean, you've got a very qualified person here who is willing to serve. And that's my 2 cents, but we'll discuss it later.
Plus, that gives us another vacancy to fill.
Well, a vice chair vacancy is easier to fill than a treasurer.
Yeah. Well, we have
You have three other people that want to speak.
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead, Noel.
When the claims came up that Annette did not pass muster with FEC, it was clearly proven those claims were false. False allegations were made against her. I didn't understand it at the time. It didn't make sense. Nothing made sense till after the last vote. Jim had sent an email saying that somehow this had something to do with Michelle Fischbach. Jim's email had a number of other inaccuracies that he knows are inaccuracies. So the question becomes, are we going to allow a coup against our chairman that violates the voters' will at the 7th District Convention that elected him? Because that's what's going on here. This is an attempted coup, just like the Democrats are trying with Trump.
Okay,
And it's
Steve.
wrong.
All right. Thanks, Noel. Steve?
So it's clear that the problem is with me, and it's being taken out on a very qualified treasurer, right? It's been brought up several times because it was brought up about Craig before the convention because we brought up that conflict of interest. Well, in that situation, had Craig removed himself from the endorsement portion, then there would have been no conflict of interest in working for Fischbach campaign. So that's not the same thing. So that keeps getting referenced. Okay. So clearly the issue is still with me. You guys all know that Julie is overqualified. You haven't given Julie a chance as far as the integrity that she has to do the job. And everything was done right to remove that conflict of interest. I would agree with you that it would be a conflict of interest had she remained as treasurer, had the form not been filed, had she not resigned as soon as she agreed to pursue this. Then it would be a conflict of interest. You're right. That's why we said it had to be done this way. Your issue is with me. You keep bringing up the same exact thing. I have had to have conversations. Yes, Holly Craig has worked for Michelle Fischbach, not for the campaign, for the legislative side. I'm looking at the notes in the notes right now, if you're wondering why I took the tangent. Quit playing word games. Craig works for the legislative side under Michelle Fischbach. We're not going to play word games anymore. So here's the thing. Your issues with me. We're not going to be able to move forward on anything until you get rid of me. So I suggest that we either take a vote to remove me from the committee, if that is such a holdup for you, or we move on. Because this is ridiculous. We are holding up work that needs to be done for the district over this issue. I have been clear. I do not plan to run. Otherwise, I wouldn't have run for this position. I wouldn't have released the best treasurer in the state in my mind if I was planning to. But I'm not going to make definitive statements about things that are things, their circumstances have changed. No one has ever asked to do, for crying out loud, Tiffany asked me to sign an affidavit before we can move forward. This is getting ridiculous. So if this is such an issue for you, and you think the CD7 voters made such a mistake in electing me to this committee, and you cannot move forward because of it, then I suggest you call a vote and either remove me or leave it alone and let's move forward. Because it is ridiculous that we cannot get moving forward on anything over this issue on a week-by-week basis. I respect those who have reached out to me and talked to me directly and had a real conversation. I have no respect left for the ones that keep attacking that aren't willing to do that. So let's put it to bed.
All right, thanks, Steve. Tiffany?
I asked you to sign that affidavit, Steve, because that's what I'm getting feedback from. I think if you would just, and I've heard this from other people, if you would just come out and say, because you have been really wishy-washy, and when somebody asked you if you are running, you say, either I'm praying about it. Now tonight, it sounds like you're not. But when I've asked you before, it says you're praying about it, or you tell people it's none of your business. Well, it is our business. This is our job. We got elected too, to represent the district, to represent the 275,000 people over that voted Republicans last November. So I think the best way to put this to rest is for you to come out and say, yes or no, you are running. If it would be great if you wanted to sign an affidavit that says you're not running. That would put a lot of people's chatter to rest. And if you're not willing to do that, that means you're leaving them the door wide open to run, which you can do. You can run. It's a free country, right? But put this to rest. Unfortunately, your undecisiveness just killed a good candidate. So that's my opinion.
You are using the same Democrat tactics. You know, you
You're
guys are
wrong,
the ones that's
Steve,
shutting
and
down the
you do
government.
not get to debate. That is my discussion.
No,
You don't debate anybody.
I've had enough of the way you've treated people, Tiffany. Here's the thing.
You're an
Here's the
arrogant too, Steve. This is ridiculous.
Hey,
I get my time. You had yours. Enough.
I have been
Get this under
consistent
control,
saying
Brett.
that I have been consistent saying
Call
that
the question.
this is not something that I'm willing to make a definitive statement on because I don't feel like it is fully my decision. I felt called to run the first time. It is something I continually pray about. I don't have plans to run. I have said that from the beginning. It's the same argument that was used against me in the endorsement pledge. I'm not going to play games.
Well, wishy-washy.
I have been
Make up your
consistent.
mind.
That is not
Either
wishy-washy. It is not
It is too,
wishy-washy.
because
No, it's
you
not.
said in one statement you're praying about it. You said in another that you're not going to. Make up your mind. This is where you get in a problem, and you just killed a good candidate, Steve. This is on you. This is
Can I
all
speak
on
now?
you.
I have my hand up.
Hey. Look, Jillian's next. Go ahead, Jillian. No? Okay. Noel, you've already spoken. Go ahead, Lisa. You're next.
All right, thank you. I would like to say that less than 3 months ago, the people voted for all the people that have just gotten on this board to be on this board. And I would like to say that if you hold a vote to remove Steve, you are going to have a huge problem because you are negating the will of the people. He has said what he has said. You need to take him at his word. We take everybody else at their word. And I don't think it's right that you would blame him for this lady not being elected a treasurer. Okay, we haven't even heard her speak for herself.
Hey, come on now. Now, if we're going to have discussion, we need to have discussion. We can't be yelling and challenging people's integrity and all that kind of stuff. We can't do that.
Okay, so I'm just saying that we have not heard that lady speak for herself. Okay, I don't sit right with somebody going into an interview and never being interviewed. Okay, that's basically what's happening. So I know we didn't get to hear from any of the other people when we asked you, but why can't we hear from her? If Tiffany just said that she is a perfectly qualified candidate, then why aren't we listening to what she says? I mean, is her word not important either? Yes, it is. So I asked, could we possibly speak from her? Like hear from her? Because that's, I mean, I'm sorry, but I take people at what they say in their word. And so I don't know I would like her to speak if that's okay. But I don't think it's right to just sit here and talk about her when she's just listening and blame other people for whatever. That's not okay. It's just, it's not.
Steve said his side of the conflict. Now, I think it like Lisa was saying, I think it's only fair that we let Julie talk. And you can ask her the question, and
We've
about
already voted, Brett. Are you going to go take another vote? Or
I know we already voted, but Tiffany was the one. I was ready to move on to adjournment. So Tiffany brought it up. So
I mean, technically, you should have let her speak before we.
Well, I asked that question. I asked that.
But we didn't do it for the other ones. I think that was why we didn't.
Well, this one is the conflict of interest, and so I think because we let Steve talk about the conflict of interest. I mean, if she said she would never go back to being Steve's treasurer, I mean, what more can you say? I don't know. Julie, if you want to speak, you can speak.
All right. Well, thank you for having me here. Yes, I was a delegate for Douglas County. So, and I was the treasurer for Steve's campaign. Before that, I really wasn't that involved in politics. So that's my heart is I've always been a Republican my entire life, standing with conservative Christian values. But this is my background, accounting and bookkeeping, helping people. That's my wheelhouse. And so when Steve needed a treasurer, he approached me about it. I prayed about it and said yes. And it was a great experience working on his campaign. And then he was the one that made me aware that there was a need here, actually. And it was just from the standpoint of, and then we talked, it's like, well, you'd have to step down from being his treasurer. And I completely understood that. And so, yes, I was willing to do that. I'm willing to, was willing to step in and help out. So that's how that came about. I mean, and that's why it was just a few days ago, because I just found out about it. I wasn't seeking this, but again, I like being part of a team. I like helping out. And so that's where I was coming from.
Okay,
And yes, he's got a qualified treasurer that he's already, we had a deputy treasurer assigned. And so she's now being the treasurer of his campaign. So.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and ask the question. So are you currently planning to stay on until the next election as treasurer and not go to any other campaign?
Yes, I would be committed to do that.
All right. Thank you, Julie. All right. I see Jim has his hand up.
Yeah, I got a few things here. I guess it goes back to Noel. I mean, one of the big things Mr. Chairman has pointed out is the importance of the Constitution. We're following it right now. I didn't write the language the way it says right now, what the numbers are, but it's, the the chair is proposing, it's up to the board with our, best ability to make a decision. And we weighed it out. We're following the Constitution. There's a lot of personal attacks going around or whatever. It's kind of up to the chair to pick a candidate that he can convince the required number. Was it 2/3? I didn't make that up. We're following the process and we're not there. So all this personal back and forth, I don't think it's helpful. And unless there's anything else to do, I think we should look at adjourning.
Okay. Nathan, you got your hand up?
Yes, I do. I just was going to point out that Tiffany, you're trying to require affidavits or whatever legal signatures down on documents. To me, we don't know what the future holds. So what if Representative Fischbach decides not to run? What if, God forbid something happens, anybody can step out in the street and get hit by a bus at any time, any of us. So I'm just saying that a year and a half away or however long, if you've got a piece of paper holding him to something that, the future doesn't necessarily isn't definitive. And so I think he shouldn't have to sit there and sign things if he's saying he's not doing it, or just sitting there. I don't see the real issue in my mind. And to me, I would think that the more people that we get on the board and get involved and get working towards Republican victories is going to give them less time to sit and fight or make them feel like they're part of the group, rather than this establishment versus grassroots battle that seems to have been going on for a while. And this just ends up being another battle on the field that causes people to think that the boot of the establishment is holding them down, when good people like Julie don't get the opportunity to serve in a volunteer role. We keep saying it's like you're applying for a job. It's volunteers, folks. We are volunteering our time, and a lot of it because of our inability to get over our own pride and our own agendas, apparently, because there's no other reason that Julie shouldn't have been voted in. It's really ridiculous, and I think that we need to take a hard look at ourselves on this, and honestly, let's include more people so they have less time to go dig up other candidates to run against our candidates. Right?
I object to that labeling. I've been on this board for 15 years. I've worked hard for many candidates, not just one, but dozens of them. And I don't respect the characterization throwing me in on that description.
Yeah. Okay. Look, people, if we're going to we got to talk respectful to each other. That's something we can't do that. We have to have enough character about ourselves to not do personal attacks. So if you're going to talk about things now, Rob did it kind of the right way. Even though he was talking, he never mentioned anybody's name and it never was a direct attack. So let's see if we can not attack people personally. Just talk to them like you'd talk to your mom. That's how I try to do it. Okay, Jillian, you're next. You got your hand up.
I forgot to put it down before, Brett.
Okay, Lisa Murphy.
Yeah, I've been sitting here gritting my teeth, keeping my mouth shut, but yeah, the holier than thou grassroots comparison to the establishment. I'm about as anti-establishment as anybody, but I don't call myself grassroots either, because I'm a Republican. We're all Republicans. Nobody's better. Nobody's worse. We're all Republicans. So I would really appreciate the stopping with we're grassroots. We're so much better than you because you're the establishment. Knock it off. That's where the fighting begins. So
you're right there, Lisa.
So we got to stop this, because you're not any better than anybody else.
Right.
Knock
All right,
it off.
Tiffany. Thanks, Lisa. Tiffany, go ahead.
Yeah, this is on a different subject, but it pertains to the treasurer position. Can you all see my screen?
Yep.
Can you explain this, Brett? Why you are listed as chair and treasurer? This is the Minnesota Campaign Finance website.
Yeah, that's what the director, I think I emailed you about that. That's what their recommendation was.
I did not receive an email from you. Did the board receive an email?
No, I said in the email that I had talked to campaign finance and the director had said that this was the process. I didn't say what the process was, but this was the process.
To list you as treasurer and chair.
Yep.
Okay, that's not illegal by the state of Minnesota.
Right.
It does violate CD7's Constitution. Article 5, Section 1, Number 2, no individual may hold more than one seat on the executive committee.
Right, and I don't.
You are listed as treasurer.
But that's just a formality, I think. We had to do it in Kandiyohi County too. For just a short period of time.
Right. I mean, this is what the director of campaign finance told me to do. So that's what I did.
All he's doing is covering the legal bases and saving us a fine. I think should be all right, right? Especially if
We
campaign
talked-
finance is
We
telling
talked
us.
a lot about the Constitution. What about our Constitution?
Yeah, we're just walking all over it. Doesn't matter anymore.
But
He's not voting as the treasurer as well. He's not using it as another position that he's voting for.
Right.
So what purposes are you going to fulfill as the treasurer on the campaign finance board?
Nothing. No, I can't do anything. We can't spend any money or do anything.
So why did they tell you to put your name there?
this is a formality. We had to go
It's
through
because,
it
hey,
in,
look, hold it. It's because the treasurer is vacant. And it's been it's been 10 days. So, or it's coming up on 10 days. Tomorrow's the last working day of the week. We had to get it done.
So what authority do you have as treasurer being listed on here? I'm just asking some questions, so don't get your panties in a bundle. Like, I'm just asking you, Brett, what
Not
did they tell
appropriate.
you?
This
What,
is,
so I'm just asking questions, so when people call me, we all have the same answers. So what did they tell you by putting your name as treasurer? Can we take in money now? Can we write
no,
checks? So what?
no, we cannot.
So then, I guess
Like-
I'm misunderstanding of what the purpose would be listing your name there then. Why don't,
Well, I mean, you'd have to call the director of campaign finance because he was the one that said that this is the way it should be in the meantime until we get a treasurer selected. Because we cannot have a treasurer. That's what he said to do. So, I mean, Melissa was
and
Sorry.
did you, I mean, just one more question, but this was sent to me. So here's the issue. What should have been done, Brett, was when you talked to them, when you did this, you should have emailed the board to say, hey, I called campaign finance. This is what they told me. My name is listed. This is their recommendation. What are your thoughts? Do you have any thoughts, board? Just saying.
can I ask why? I mean, Tiffany, I understand what you're saying, but can I ask why he should have emailed the board because of this? I'm trying to intercede and I know I'm out of a line, but as a treasurer for 6 years, yes, this is a formality. You've got to have the names on there. It is a formality. And I understand if people call us, but we just say, no, we can't operate taking money, et cetera, et cetera. But until we find a treasurer, there has to be a name listed on the statement of organization. And so is this something that we have to turn around and he should have emailed? Because I've seen stuff done where we haven't gotten emails about every little thing that has been done in the past. So, but I understand what you're saying, but it's a formality with the campaign finance board. Melissa Stevens, I could name 3 of them, but Melissa's who I dealt with. It's a formality.
who I deal with too.
And that would have been an easy explanation. That would have saved me some conversations, some chatter in the background, just a simple email to say, hey, this is what I did, this is why, just so you guys are aware. Any questions, give me a call.
Okay, point taken.
I was just going to add that from my perspective, I think having a record of said transaction, whether it's a formality or not, is the point of doing an email, so that there's record of, you've been told this, you're letting your board know, and there's a record of it.
Okay, point taken. Let's see. A lot of people have their hand up, but most of them have already talked.
Brett,
Yes.
Brandon would like to speak, but he can't raise his hand and he
Oh.
hasn't spoken yet.
Okay, go ahead, Brandon.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Sorry, I'm on my phone here, so I can't raise my hand. First of all, I do have a few points. I'm going back to the treasurer. First of all, I'd like to say is, Julie, you do have a great resume, and I appreciate you putting your name out there. The reason I did not vote yes at this point was because I was not aware that you had resigned 4 days ago. And so for me, it's not that I don't think you wouldn't be a good, or she wouldn't be a good candidate to vote for. The reasons, a couple reasons. A, I didn't feel 4 days was enough, and she did not speak. And so for me, I wasn't able to get my hand up to say, please speak. So that's part of my fault. So I apologize for not doing that. For me, how I feel about it is, we do need to get this treasury thing resolved as soon as possible. But how I personally would like to see this is, anybody that has a person that they would like to nominate their hand for, or nominate the person for being the treasurer, would we be able to get the resume put out ASAP and then have a final vote, more or less kind of like do a who gets the highest vote next Thursday? Is that a possibility? I know it's a whole week, but it's one of those things. I know we got to get it done quick enough, but it also gives everybody the opportunity to talk to people, talk to constituents, get to know these people if they have questions. And so that's how I feel about it. And also, the last thing I want to say is, Steve, I do not want you to resign. You have not declared, so I'd like you to stay on the board for conflict. How I feel about it is, if you did declare, then I'd have something else to say. That's all my comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Brandon. Let's see. I think all the rest of the hands have either spoken for or against, and Lisa's already spoken. So, would
Make a
anybody?
motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Bingo. Second.
Non-debatable, right?
Okay. Yep.
Yep.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed,
Aye.
nay. Opposed, nay. Wow, unanimous.
See,
Do
Nate,
you
we
want to
can agree
stay
on
on
things.
with Heidi, Brett?
What?
Do you want to stay on with
Oh,
Heidi?
Lisa, here, let me talk to you on the side.
I did want to say one thing. Julie, thank you very much for your very thoughtful talk to us. I appreciate that very much. And I understand that you are, organizational type person. I sincerely appreciate that. So
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you.
You know, we've got a representative on here. I wonder if he would care to say anything.
Actually, we might have two. I thought Mike Weiner came on as well.
Yeah, I saw that, but I think he left because they got the BPOU meeting going on tonight too.
He's on, but he's muted.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Representative Murphy. Go ahead.
Yes, how are you?
Good.
So yeah, I was asked to be on. Lisa called me and said, would you be interested in attending the meeting? So I didn't really know what my role was tonight, but I can certainly give you a little update on what happened at the House and where things are. First of all, I want to thank everybody for 67 GOP members in the Minnesota House. There's nothing that was more effective than that this year. We had a veto power, and they knew it. And so there was a lot of talk about having half of 1/3 of the vote, half meaning half of the House, third meaning between the Senate, the governor's office, and the House. But really, it boiled down to we have veto power. The governor had it, and so did we. And I can tell you what's really important to Democrats in the House. If you have to look at it just from my standpoint, I think that the things that they would not compromise on are mandates, FTEs, the workforce from the state of Minnesota in terms of the state employees. The climate agenda turned out to be a very powerful reach for them, and healthcare for illegals. And healthcare for illegal is the one that was our biggest win, but was their biggest loss. And, in general, though, when I say the mandates, I'm talking like, the plans that they put in place for paid family leave, sick and safe time, unemployment insurance, that was for part-time workers. And then the climate agenda was really all part of those things that they really wanted to maintain and work their way through. So I'm on transportation, energy, and human services. Those are my committees. I was in my first term, I was also on energy. In transportation, we really negotiated from the Minnesota House a great transportation bill. And the bill, the one thing that it did do is it took away some of the agenda with the climate agenda from the Democrats. And by saying that, there was a lot of agreement with us that some of these conditions that were put in place with the Tech Advisory Board. The Tech Advisory Board is made up of all unelected people appointed by the governor. And what they do is they give us an idea of what things have to be done to a road to make it compliant so that it qualifies for, reducing emissions. So bike trails, trees. One of the examples was that they were going to take I-94 and make it into a boulevard. And so there's just a lot of things that would have hurt. It would have cost state taxpayers to build state highways anywhere from 10 to 40% more, because you had to go through all these renditions. Plus, if you're bidding a project as a contractor, you have to wade through a lot of stuff, and we get less people bidding on jobs. Energy, it was about the renewable energy fund that they have. And there was no movement at all. The Democrats were very solid in the way that they negotiated. There was no movement on it. And we said, okay, there's $32 million every year that's kicked in by Excel ratepayers into a fund. And that's your slush fund. We're 67. We want half of it to give back to the ratepayers. And they blew a gasket. And so that is what at the end, we did not come out with a bill in the House. And when it got to the leaders, that's where they were. I think we could have been a little more aggressive. Again, we have veto power, but some of our biggest work was done on the healthcare for illegals. In human services, we were able to negotiate some movement in support of nursing homes. But there were some things that were in that bill that I didn't like. There was some LGBTQ stuff that was in it. I asked about 6 different times in committee about FTE, state workers. And I said, how many people work from home? How many workers do we have? The bottom line is that the last biennium, we added 6,000 new jobs in the state at an average of 120,000 when you finish benefits. That's 880 million per year, or $1.6 billion is what we added in state workers. If we were looking at trying to come up with money for this deficit, we should have been looking at what we can do to reduce our footprint in government. And so they didn't want to go there at all. We were grossly overbuilt. It's going to be the #1 cost for Minnesota taxpayers. It's going to move ahead of K-12 education. And so that's where those 3 are. So that's just a little bit of an update. If you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to yield to that. Otherwise, thank you for having me here tonight. I certainly appreciate everybody that is taking the time to try to make this party better. And we have a lot of work to do to overcome Democrats, so we need to be on the same team. And like I said, I really appreciate everybody here that's taking their time and trying to get that done. So thanks.
Thank you,
Right, sir.
Representative Murphy.
Yeah. I just got one
welcome.
thing for you, sir. Now, you were listening into our debate and whatnot. I'm not asking you to weigh in, but if you want to, you certainly can.
Well, first of all, Julie, it was nice to meet you. You related to Jack at all? How do you know Jack?
Jack is my husband.
Well, I tell you what, that does it for me right there. Jack is a great man. I've spent a lot of time with my BPOUs. Douglas County is completely changed over. We get 100 people showing up at the meetings. I asked them at a recent meeting, I said, how many people are election judges? And 50% of the people raised their hand. We have a new real interest in the Republican Party, and Jack is one of those guys. And he'll challenge you. Jack will challenge you, but I love the man. And if she's married to Jack, she comes with good stock. So I like Julie.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is Mike Weiner on? Mike, did you want to speak?
I am in a really bad location as far as service, so hopefully I don't cut out. Representative Murphy did a good job of talking about a lot of the things we deal with, but he hit a point at the end, I think, that I would like to speak about more, and that is simply beating the Democrats. We are in a position in this state that I have to tell you, it's really awful being in the minority and dealing with the trifecta like we did the last 2 years, and now even being in a tie. But we have an incredible opportunity this next election cycle. When Ken Martin, who was the chair of the DFL, left and he went to the federal level, that was one of those things that only comes along once in a lifetime. He was a genius when it comes to elections. The Democrat Party is in chaos. They've lost a valuable leader. They have Comrade Walls running around the country doing his jazz hands skit, which just makes their party look awful. But they are so torn on what they're going to do. They don't know if they're going to be more liberal, more left-leaning, more progressive, or if they're going to moderate. And there is such division in the Democrat Party. We absolutely have to capitalize on that and win this state back this next election cycle. And CD7 is the backbone of this state. It is almost entirely red. We need to take the resources in CD7, not just flip the Moorhead area, Kupek and Keeler seat, but to help out all across this state. Because I tell you what, we are with a loss of citizens in this state with the next census cycle that's coming down in a few years, in 2030, we will probably lose a congressional seat. Our House districts will get bigger, our Senate districts will get bigger, and this is our best opportunity to take this state back. And we need this engine running on all cylinders. We need people to work together. We're not always going to agree. And that is one of the beauties of being a Republican and a conservative, is we can have true diversity. We can disagree, but we have to work together, because our true opponent, our true enemy here is the Democrats. And I understand some of the frustrations and stuff within different ideas of the party, but we have to focus our attention on the Dems. So thank you for what CD7 is doing. We need you. We absolutely need CD7 moving forward.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chair, related to this?
Yeah, I mean, we've already adjourned, so yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'm trying to be polite. I guess I'm wondering, you asked the elected officials, I'm wondering, do you folks have something similar with how your organization is run in the House, where you've got to bring a majority together to do something and you can't get it done? And how do you overcome that? How do you come to a mutually agreeable solution?
I can,
Just all,
I can,
all on your side with no Democrats, just Republican only problem solving.
well, there's obviously disagreements and you see the divide. Well, I wouldn't say it's a divide, but a difference of opinions. We have more the metro, the urban seats, and their priorities and so forth are different than what's in greater Minnesota. Now, my seatmates on one side is Jeff Whitty, which is in a close race. Andrew Myers is in one of the closest races in the state on my left side. So we get the opportunity to talk about how to connect with voters, the differences in our districts and so forth. And I totally understand that they vote on things that don't necessarily, I wouldn't vote on. I can't vote on. At the end of the day, though, when I see across the aisle the lies, the crazy ideas, the absolute insanity on the other side, I cannot blame my Republicans on my side for differences of opinion when I know it's the other side that's our enemy. And I think every time we have those discussions, it is our job as representatives to represent the 43,000 people in my area. If what I need to do, if to get my viewpoint across, is to articulate it the best that I can. If I don't do that, and if the caucus doesn't see it my way, then I need to do a better job. I usually look at these things and say, if the caucus isn't viewing the same things as I do, then either I'm not viewing things right, or I need to do a better job of framing my arguments better. So that's kind of how I look at it. I cannot look at my side as my opponents, especially when we're dealing with such a insane, evil party on the other side. Listening to the debate the other night, the hypocrisy, the lies, it turns your stomach. So even though we have disagreements on our side, the true opponent is the other side.
I can weigh in a little bit too. I think the one thing that I think is unique in the House, or is comforting, I guess, is that we're really respectful to each other. So that really helps. There's disagreements, but we understand that our areas aren't the same either. And so I would say as a whole, the Republican Party has the very same desires for the party. It's a matter of when you're in an area that's completely different. It's not like you have to be different. You have to be able to negotiate that a little differently. So they explain that well in the House, and it's great. I mean, I think it's important. And if I could do anything to help good people that are in those places, and we have them, I want to do it. Does it mean bring home the bacon for me, or if they need something that helps them, maybe that's what we need to do. But it's all about moving the whole ball forward. And like I said, the respectful dialogue is the key, and it never really gets too out of hand. I don't think. I mean, I just think that we spend a lot of time together too, so we're together all the time, and we're always talking with each other. And so I think that's really helpful, but we need to have that. We need to be able to make those hard decisions once in a while that puts us in a place where we can have that veto power. But I'd say all in all, because we're respectful to each other, that comes easier than not.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Well, everybody's free to leave, so I know Heidi's going to stick around and Tiffany's going to stick around.
I've got Brett.
Okay, Fred, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to respectfully say something, if I may, in reference to what's happened the last 10 days. Mr. Chair, you're in an unenviable position because of what's happened. The action that was taken with the state FEC, I can understand that. It's a formality. Covering some things that were discussed at the last meeting. But one of the problems that now is that we've got a violation of the Constitution, the 7th District Constitution. And I'd respectfully like to say, I think this whole thing could be resolved if you could bring forth a name that would pass muster with the majority of the board. There have been 3 attempts. We know how the votes have gone. Please consider bringing somebody that would pass muster, and we can move on from this. Thank you.
All right. All right. Well, I look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow and Saturday. I'll be there at the registration table along with Curtis and his wife, and Annette's volunteered to do that as well. So
I'll be a feature at the bar if anyone wants to say hi.
You'll be where?
At the bar, a feature at the bar.
Okay. All right, Mason.
I can't drink, and I might be there with you, Mason.
Okay. Thanks everybody for coming. Like I said, if Heidi and Tiffany and myself we'll just hang out here for a bit.
Good night.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thanks.
I think out of respect, then I'm gonna bow out then. Sounds like you guys have a personal conversation.
Yeah, just the 3 of us, if you guys wouldn't mind.
Okay.
Just a warning to everybody too. I would, to get to the hotel, either take 694 all the way around or 494, whichever way you're coming, and then come in from the east side of St. Paul so you avoid downtown, because otherwise I have a feeling you're gonna run into construction and protesters.
Do we want to take 36 Larpenter or what?
No, you could go, it's a little further out of your way. Just take 694 or 494. I'm gonna take 694 down to 94 at the far side over by Oakdale, and then turn and go west on 94, and then you'll run right into the hotel and avoid St. Paul altogether.
All right.
Is
Thanks, Lisa.
Do we need?
Is that Saturday, Lisa? You mean, or
Yeah.
Friday? Oh, okay,
Well-
because we're going, Steve and I are going in Friday, so, okay.
Yeah, I would just check where the, because it's gonna be a shit show. So
Thanks,
between the
Lisa.
protesters and the construction. So, all right, thank you.
Well-
Good night, everybody.
Show up well armed, right, Lisa? Well armed.
Absolutely, you got the 9mm 18 stack
There
with
you go.
with an extra.
There you go. All right. We'll
I
see ya.
just have one more closing comment, if I can, then I'm gonna bail. Is this still being recorded? And you might want to turn it off if it is.
Right. Yeah, you're good call, Jim. Thank you.
Thanks,
Good night,
Jim.
folks. Good night, folks.
Good night. Nathan, Vicky, can you hang up, please?